On today's episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored, our superhero of making you look beautiful, Dr. Roddy Raban, is going to help you navigate the treacherous landscape of plastic surgery and why you really do need the Roddy Roadmap. I want to ask you, because it's such a treacherous landscape now in plastic surgery. It's like, not only did this go from being a revered profession to now it's like easy financing, before and afters on billboards. Like, it's become like Better Call Saul now. It's kind of a little bit ridiculous. Is there a governing board at all? Is there anything? Is it the Wild West? Who's protecting the patient?
So I think you make a great point. And so the reality is no one is protecting the patient.
What?
Yes. The only person protecting the patient is the patient. So, the problem is that, there's this incorrect idea or this philosophy that, listen, this is healthcare in America. So there's got to be an overriding governing board.
Correct.
So what about the AMA? They have nothing to do with this. What about the medical board? Not to do with this. What about the American Society? The bottom line is that no one is regulating what people are doing. And as a result, that's why you're seeing this incredible uptick in revisions, disasters, and funny-looking, weird-looking people. So what's happened is indeed the wild, wild west, and this is what's happened. So historically, what would happen is that you're a patient, you want to have plastic surgery, you ask a few friends, you go to your local plastic surgeon, you get it done, boom, done. Now what's happened is you go on Instagram, and there's the Kardashians, and there's this doctor and that doctor, and everyone's promoting themselves. And as we discussed in our first episode, some of them are not plastic surgeons, they're cosmetic surgeons, they're OBGYNs. And you're like, well, how can an OBGYN do surgery? Well, you can do anything you want in America when you're a doctor in your private practice because you have a medical license. So if tomorrow I wanted to go, let's say, take out a gallbladder, I can go remove a gallbladder. No one says that I can't, but you're not trained. Says who? I have my medical degree. What is the only place where you have a little bit of protection is in a hospital. So it's not that the government or the American or the medical board is protecting you. Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, for example, where I practice, will not give you privileges to do a case that you don't have training in. But what about if I do it in my own private surgery center? So what happened is with the advent of surgery centers, in other words, you go into offices in private places, you can do anything you want because you set the rules there. So an OBGYN can indeed do a tummy tuck. Wow. And no one can stop you from doing it. So I think it's really, really, really important that patients, A, realize that they're on this journey alone, and that they need to be much, much more savvy when they navigate and do so-called homework or research when it comes to doctors.
So even the location of the surgery itself is an indicator if a doctor's doing stuff in a private surgery center in his office versus at Cedars, because doctors have to get privileges. You said that earlier. To the layman, they might not know what that means. Cedars Hospital has to decide that Dr. Raban has the proper training
Correct.
To do this surgery within their four walls.
Yeah. So let's what I would suggest is let's just take it all from the beginning and say, because what I like to do with patients is, okay, so what by the time they've gotten to me, this is not relevant information. But what I like to give to patients, and I always wish, is I had an opportunity to talk to them before they either become prospective patients or before they get to me, because they need to know, what do I need to know in order to go about this process so that I don't end up being a revisional patient. So first thing is you got to find out about training. Training. You and I talked about this 100 times, and I've touched on it just a second ago, which is my doctor a plastic surgeon? Is he a cosmetic surgeon? Is he an ophthalmologist, etc.? We talked about that, board certification, not. And because someone says I'm a cosmetic surgeon, it means absolutely nothing. It means that they have
They could be an ENT doing boobies.
100%.
Breast dog, excuse me.
Yes,
I'm using
100%.
layman's terms.
So training is very important.
Okay.
And when you go on their websites, you're going to find that the training is very misleading. So Dr. So-and-so is the head of the Academy of the Liposuction Specialists of America. They come up with all kinds of associations and groups, and then they become presidents and blah, blah, blah. All that is mumbo jumbo. It's nonsense. So do not be moved by the fact that your doctor has a lot of fancy letters after his name. ASPS, ACC, double MC. None of that means anything.
No.
So
ASPCA.
None of that matters. Yeah. MCOO, what is that?
Yeah.
AMCO or whatever.
Run DMC.
So what you need to do is you need to see what kind of training they have. Are they plastic surgery trained? Are they ENT trained? What is their primary training?
Right.
So that takes care of training. Next thing is you got to go and, well, should I look at reviews? Yeah, reviews are helpful. They're helpful. They're not gold.
And they're not reliable necessarily. You don't know who's posting them.
So, for example, there's been a lot of investigative stories where they found that doctors, staff, and family members write reviews. So how do I read these reviews and figure out if they're real? Well, first of all, you got to be a good investigator. When you read the content of the reviews, if the review goes, "Oh my God, I went to Dr. Raban. I love him. My boobs are amazing. I'm so happy. Thank you." That's a useless review. Useless why? It doesn't give you any information. You don't know who the person is, and they haven't shared anything with you that would tell you that they actually were a patient. Instead, you want to look for reviews that are well written. They have a lot of detail. They refer to things that like office staff, day number 1, I did this and it was very painful, but it was better than I thought. So you got to be specific. You got to be more specific, and you got to learn to read between the lines. So reviews can be helpful, but you need to be cautious. Next, you got to go and look at before and after photos. So before and after photos are really valuable because at the end of the day, they're what you're shopping for. You're looking for results. So you need to be careful because photos can be photoshopped and manipulated. So on the one end, you need to look at a ton of photos because, people often say, they come to me and be like, "Oh my God, I went on your gallery and I saw your work. I love it. I love number 17. You're not ordering from you're not ordering Chinese food from a menu. These are just representative of what's possible. So don't be misconstrued that if you really like 2 or 3 results, you got to like 80% of the work, not 10, not 20, but 80% of the work has to resonate with you. And then you got to make sure that the results, of course, how do I know that they're not manipulated? You kind of don't, but if you look at enough photos, you start to get what I'd recommend is go look at his other work. So if someone wants to get a boob job or a breast or a breast augmentation, they should go look at the rhinoplasties and the facelifts and other things because it gives you an idea if this person is very good at what they do or not. Talented. Social media, one of my biggest pet peeves, or I can't. It's a bane of my.
I see it in your face. Slowly, I turn step by step.
Bane of my existence. Why? Because it allows people to bypass the traditional ways of showing their reputation and excellence. You can literally graduate from training and the next day have 1 million followers, which in today's world means that you're well trained, well liked, and reputable.
It's a shortcut. All know it's a big giant shortcut.
We understand. We all know they can be purchased, manipulated, and altered. And being present on social media, maybe it's relevant that there is some presence, but the fact that someone has 20,000 followers versus 100, you're not looking for entertainer. You're looking for a physician. I actually think when a doctor has too many followers, it's actually a bad sign.
Suspicious.
Right? What doctor has time to be entertaining 2 million followers, and how interesting could he possibly be? So
I love that you don't have a Twitter handle. I really do. I think that's kind of cool.
I wouldn't even know how to use Twitter. So social media is really dangerous. And then celebrity endorsements, another thing that's so misleading. Dr. So-and-so, I saw the Kardashians went to him. Or I know this amazing fashionista and she had Botox done by him. First and foremost, nobody goes to anybody who's a celebrity and allows themselves to be seen without getting paid. So you already know that it's not a legitimate, unbiased relationship. It's an exchange, and the exchange is always for some services. And so that tells you that that person isn't going to them because they're amazing. They're going to them because it's a business deal. And second of all, who cares if Kim Kardashian goes to so-and-so? I mean, let's be honest.
That would be kind of a turnoff for me, quite frankly.
It's not relevant. So I think that the problem is that, you're a patient and you're trying to figure out, as we said, navigate this landscape, and you're running into all these pitfalls. Next thing you want to know is, okay, well, where is this doctor going to go and do his surgeries? Is he doing it? Doing it in a surgery center is totally acceptable and is the norm. That's not the problem. But we have many levels of certification of surgery centers. Literally, I could turn the back of my office into a surgery center. That doesn't mean it's safe. That doesn't mean that it's a reputable environment. So surgery center is a general term, but you need to know who's certifying it. So for example, Medicare certification, Quad A certification, Triple A certification. You want to make sure that it's well certified, hasn't had its license revoked. Then we talk about anesthesia providing. Who's actually going to put me to sleep when my doctor, when my doctor...
Wow. I hadn't even thought of that. General anesthesia is a very it's a
Yeah,
thing.
of course. And people think, oh, I love my doctor, so my anesthesiologist will be safe. For example, a lot of people don't use anesthesiologists. They use nurse anesthetists, etc. So the key to all of this is you need to know all the details so that you can make an educated decision. I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. I'm saying you don't know, and until you know, you can't choose.
What's the best case scenario? You want a board certified plastic surgeon with who do you want doing
I
your
would say the best case scenario, if you could have anything you want a board certified plastic surgeon in a highly accredited surgery center, providing anesthesia provided by a board certified anesthesiologist, okay, who has an impeccable reputation online, who has a tremendous amount of reliable before and after photos, right? Those are the kinds of things that you want to have. And then you want to look at the California Medical Board or the board in your state and see if they have had infractions. I can't tell you.
You can find that information?
Of course, you can Google anything today. You just Google, you go to the state board and you look up. And many doctors who are practicing today have had many infractions in the past and no one knows about it because you can market over it. You can create so much marketing noise that you drown out all the negatives. And so people are inundated with positive things like advertisements and social media and whatever that you can't, unless you're a good excavator, you won't get to the deeper layers. And so the funny thing is I always find that patients spend more time researching homes, neighborhoods, cars, and then there's this sort of white coat trust syndrome, which is ridiculous. The information you're getting is going to be somewhat manipulated. So you need to do the decoding.
Wow. And again, I introduced this segment by saying you're a no holds barred guy. When you talk to a patient, how much do you disclose? What's the fine line between telling them, okay, this is your downtime, this is your aftercare, this is how long you're going to be uncomfortable, versus like overwhelm or scaring them? Like what?
Well, my job is not to make you. I'm not here to emotionally make you excited. I'm not here to like encourage you to do the procedure. I mean, yes, that's what plastic surgeons usually do because
that's an important statement.
It's kind of salesy, right? I'm selling you on my skills. My job is, you've already come to me, so you're sold on who I am. My job is to inform you. It's an academic experience. So I just tell them the truth. And sometimes the truth is the unpleasant stuff, like, you're going to lose sensation to your nipple. You might lose your nipple. Oh my God. Yeah, the risk is 1%. It's unlikely because you don't smoke. It's unlikely because you don't have heart disease, but it's not zero. You need to be aware of it. You may have anesthetic complications. So I would say that most of the patients who we interact with, I wouldn't say are super stoked or excited or elated, but they are very well informed. And the truth is that if me telling you the details, like pain, tummy tucks, Dr. Ron, are they painful? Yeah, they're uncomfortable. Yes, are they unbearable? Of course not. They're tolerable, but they are unpleasant. So if someone tells you that, you're going to have a tummy tuck and, you can expect to be at work in a week, it's a lie.
Is it really? It takes more than a week?
Minimum 2 weeks.
Really?
Yes, I hear people coming all the time and they're like, hey, I went and saw a doctor. They're going to do an augmentation. They told me I could be back, lifting weights in 3 days. I mean, that's insane. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
So you need to tell them the truth so they can prepare. And if by me telling you the truth, you suddenly find this to be a very unattractive procedure, then there's your answer. Don't do it. But you can't say, I don't want to know, because if I know, it's going to turn me off. So I'm best to stick my head in the sand and not know. I mean, my job isn't to sell you or make you excited. My job is to tell you the truth. The truth should be what you're looking for.
It's unvarnished, uncensored, and I love when, and I almost want you to repeat it because I feel like it's a soundbite. My job is not to sell you or get you excited about the surgery. Like I have found that to be the opposite every time I've ever spoken to any, med spa plastic surgeon.
Well, it's competitive, and the idea or the feeling is, holy crap, if you leave this office, there are, at least in Beverly Hills, 400 other guys within a stone's throw away, so you'll go somewhere else. And so there's the competitive nature of the environment changes your perspective. But again, as I said to you, my job is academic. My job is to be informative. That's why a consult takes an hour. If your consult goes and the doctor sees you for 15, 20 minutes and agrees to a lot of the things you say, and you don't really feel a little bit uncomfortable or there's no exchange of information, I would say that was a useless consult. And if you don't get information, because the reality is this, do you really even need to go see your doctor? You can go online and there's endless amount of information. So what the hell do I need to go to see you for? Well, do you know the difference between saline, silicone, submuscular, dual plane, areolar, belly button approach? You don't. That's where your doctor comes in.
That was a lot, right? And that's just breast dogs.
Yeah. So your doctor's job is to take the information you've heard, you've read, you think, and put it into a digestible, comprehensive understanding of what's right for me, not my neighbor, not my best friend, but me. That's why you go to a professional and pay for a consult. People always say, well, I don't understand. All these other plastic surgeons, their consults are for free. That's fine. That's good for them. But when was the last time your plumber came in for free? When was the last time your electrician came in for free? Your lawyer, your dentist, your accountant. So if you're going to see a doctor for free, you should assume that level of information.
Exactly.
Quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty. Well, that being said, that leads us to how much revisionist work you do, which is 30%. When we come back, we're actually going to have a patient who I think I'm going to reuse the phrase quick and dirty. She had a situation which you helped her out of. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, me
when we
too.
come back, we're going to actually speak to a patient of Dr. Roddy Raban, board certified plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, on Plastic Surgery Uncensored. So we are back with Plastic Surgery Uncensored with Dr. Roddy Raban, and we are blessed that we actually have one of your revision patients on the line that's willing to talk about her journey from a result she wasn't pleased with to meeting you to going forward. So, Shannon, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So you initially decided that you wanted a breast augmentation. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you had it done by another doctor?
I did. I had it done by a doctor in San Francisco originally.
And did you research this doctor at all? What did you know about him before you decided to go to him?
So, yeah, good question. I did research him. In my case, I went with a board certified. He was board certified. I made sure of that. I did a little bit of due diligence. You know, I say a little bit because at the time I thought that I was doing a good job doing due diligence, reading reviews, asking questions, looking at pictures. But now going through this experience and what I know, I realize that I just scratched the surface in terms of due diligence and questions.
Shannon, that's a really good question and a really good comment, because I think what we've been what the segment was about earlier was talking about, okay, so I'm a patient and I want to go through this journey and I really want to end up being happy. And what can I do other than luck? What can I do myself to sort of solidify or optimize that? And we're talking about doing homework and research. Could you do us a favor and tell us sort of the distinctions and sort of where your pitfalls were? And, you know, I think people think they're doing homework, and then unfortunately, if they're in your situation and then they have to do homework again, they realize that perhaps the first time around it was insufficient. So give us a little insight, or what you would tell patients, you know, your friends or someone that wants to do it. What were the distinctions you did then and now, and what should they look out for?
No, of course, happy to share. Well, originally I was, most keen on finding someone who was recommended by friends who had a good result, and I was living in San Francisco at the time. I had a number of friends who were nurses, and I really did lean on their professional opinion and personal opinion going through augmentation themselves. So they referred me to the doctor, and they had good results. I also looked at this particular doctor's Yelp reviews. They looked good. When I was in the office originally, I looked at, a picture book, and I made sure he was board certified. So that was kind of just, I would say, a fourth of what I should have been doing. Where I really feel like I red flags now, looking back for me, is I did ask him, I know, any procedure you enter into, anytime you have an operation, you're at risk for a complication. So when I asked him about his complication rate, he got extremely defensive, and his immediate reply was, I don't have complications. And, looking back, that is silly. I'm actually married to a surgeon myself, and now, having his knowledge and the knowledge I have to date, that was an answer that was definitely should have been a red flag for me at the time. Also, looking at his picture book, a number of the pictures in there that I did like and I asked him about, he did say those were actually breast augmentations on a male. So looking at that, having a picture book of male anatomy and not labeling that is very misleading to patients, as male anatomy is completely different and the outcomes are going to look different. So those two things were, in hindsight, major red flags to me. The third one was my mom was with me the day of surgery, and after, she didn't want to be too overbearing, but afterwards, with everything that happened, she did tell me that she didn't trust him and didn't get a good feeling from him. So, with all that being said, I wish my mom would have spoken up, and I would have had, better intuitive knowledge into some of those warning signs early on.
I want to know, Shannon, because my eyebrows just went, through my non-Botoxed hairline. What male breast augmentation? How did you feel when he let you know that those were breast augmentations on a male?
Well, living in San Francisco, I guess I wasn't too surprised. It was kind of commonplace. And then I asked, okay, that's great. That looks good. But can I see some pictures of females with similar anatomy to me? And I was shown some, which made me feel more comfortable. But, digging deeper, what I should have done is, of course, the picture book and anyone's portfolio, whether, whatever profession you're in, is going to present your best work. So I wish I would have really asked for references with someone very similar to me, similar size, stature and anatomy to begin with. Having a conversation with someone in person or over the phone would have been much better than looking at a picture book.
Shannon, quick question for you. I think one of the things that people, I don't know that we can verbalize it or quantify it, is the interpersonal relationship that you have with your physician. Sort of that feeling that your mom sort of touched on it with that gut feeling. But I think what happens is, to be honest with you, compared to the majority of my revision patients, you actually did probably more homework than most of them. You actually hit some of the key elements, which is he was board certified. That's check. He was actually a plastic surgeon, which was check. You got references, which I think is very helpful, from reputable people, which are nurses. And yet, despite all that, I think at the end, unfortunately, things didn't work out for you. And I think sometimes that's just the nature of what we're doing. But I think what it highlights is that you can do all the right things and still have things not go exactly the way you planned, let alone if you don't even do half of those things. But let me ask you a question in regards to your gut feeling, in regards to your interpersonal relationship. I think that it's safe to say that you and I have a pretty good friendship now. We've passed beyond the just you're my patient and I consider you a friend, in terms of just as I am with most of my patients after you go through that journey. Do you feel like the relationship that you had going in with that other physician and was similar? If so, great. If not, how was it different? And talk about the time you spent and the connectivity you had, and whether or not you felt that person was invested in you.
Yeah, I would love to share about that. So, again, I just can't stress enough to trusting your gut feeling, because I did feel the original surgeon was very standoffish. He was very arrogant to the point where, like I mentioned, asking about complication rate and if a complication does arise, how you deal with it. And he just became immediately defensive and blew off my questions. That didn't rub me the right way. Another thing was, right after the surgery, I knew something was wrong by the way I was feeling, the way I was healing. And multiple visits going back to his office, I felt like I was strung along. He knew what was wrong. I mean, I even knew what was wrong, and I don't have a medical background, but it was quite obvious. And not only did he fail to share with me what happened and have a good game plan as to how to fix it, he actually lied and tried to cover it up. And he wanted to essentially, for lack of better words, botch my other breast, which looked somewhat normal after the surgery. And I knew right there in my gut that not only was he, before like arrogant, and I got a feeling that he was kind of standoffish. Now he was also lying to me, and I did not feel comfortable being cared for by someone who had such little regard for my health and my outcome as a patient. That's really when I went on a search to find a revision surgeon, and I interviewed probably about 12, multiple in San Francisco as well as Beverly Hills. And immediately, Dr. Raban, I remember it was a Saturday, and I flew down. I drove to the office, and I was just kind of like at the end of my breaking point really with this. I didn't think that anyone was going to be able to fix my situation.
Shannon, before we get into Dr. Raban,
yeah.
Again, you're talking, and I'm, as someone who doesn't know you like Dr. Raban does, I'm a little taken aback in that you said that you knew immediately what was wrong, and you're not a doctor. What was wrong?
Yeah. So he had over dissected my muscle. So essentially, I had immediate, pretty excruciating pain on the bottom of my left breast after surgery, and I knew that was not normal to feel a very sharp stabbing sensation on the left-hand side. And I was pretty brushed off by his responses and calls into the office. And as time passed, I was told, give it time. It will look better. Give it time. And
it was in pain and it looked different. You're telling me.
Let me elaborate a little bit so I can just kind of describe what happened. So I think the issue in hand, and again, I think what we're going to underscore here, and it's going to be the repeating theme, it's not so much always that an error is made, because it's error. It is human to error. It's the aftermath of when something doesn't go right and how we take care of the patients. And what happens is the personalities come to life. And so if you don't feel connected to your doctor when all is good, it's probably going to be a bad circumstance when things don't go well. And so what happened in her instance is that when you do a breast enhancement, you make a pocket or a space. And in her instance, the left space was much larger and lower than the right one, hence creating asymmetry. And so what she was referring to was the suggestion was, let's correct this by lowering the right breast, which was the normal breast, which is what she was saying she knew was wrong, because what you needed to do was fix the left one, which was wrong, rather than say that the right one just didn't settle, which is usually a kind of a trick that you do when you're a physician and you don't want to admit that something is wrong. So I think what you were leading to, which I think was really important, is, so you said and this is, again, not really so much about me, but so much more about you and prospective patients. But I want you to describe the distinction and sort of that your gut. So you and we met on Saturday, and you were saying something particular about your experience since you'd seen 12 people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I had interviewed multiple surgeons, and I was pretty much ready to give up because I didn't feel connection with any of them. A lot of surgeons wanted to, and I never entered into breast augmentation wanting, extremely large breasts. Like, that was never something I wanted. I just wanted something to complement my body. And many of the surgeons that I met with to help me with my revision wanted to put extremely large implants in. And again, I got that gut feeling that it wasn't right. When I met with Dr. Raban, I immediately felt at ease. It was emotional for me because I felt really embarrassed about my body. I had just started dating this wonderful guy, and I did not want to take my top off, and it was really devastating to my self-esteem. And I knew going into this, right, that with any surgery, especially plastic surgery, there's going to be risk of complications. So for me, I wasn't so upset that I did have a complication. I was upset that that physician who I trusted with my body lied to me and wanted to cover up a complication instead of giving me a game plan and an answer. So I immediately felt Dr. Raban knew how hard this was for me emotionally. He was the only doctor I met with who didn't act like, oh, this is super easy. We'll just put in a larger implant. You'll be fine. You'll be on your way. I really felt like he listened to me. I was there for a good couple hours. He really listened to me. He connected with me on my emotional plight. He was devising a game plan, and he was the only surgeon I met with who I could tell he was really thinking about me, not only just as a case, but like a person. Like, what can I do to give her back her quality of life? He was honest and upfront that, the second time around is going to be critical, that I follow aftercare instructions. I'm going to have limited mobility. I'm going to have to
so important
really adhere to things for 6 weeks plus. And that extra time that he spent with me and understanding my case, and he really made me feel confident that he could help me, but he also didn't overpromise. He was very straightforward, like, hey, putting in a larger implant is going to be a horrible idea, and here's why. And he said, this is what we're going to do. And when I get in there, I may have to change the plan, but I'm going to make sure that I give you results where you're going to be healthy and happy. And I really did feel that he was the only person who was interested in helping me and not just making money off of me.
So I would like to kind of wrap this up, Shannon, by saying, number one, mother knows best. Number two,
right?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think rapport with your physician is on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh my gosh, a 10. It's just paramount. And I brought my mom with me the second time I had surgery, and she's giving me a thumbs up, like, oh yeah, I get a good feeling from him. I like him.
Yeah. Well, listen, Shannon, I mean, you're a wonderful young lady, and I'm really happy that at the end of the day, that this is all about your journey. And you obviously, Mazel Tov, I said to you before, I think you fell in love and married the man of your dreams, which is fantastic. Yeah. And you've started your family. And I think what you were sharing today, which we're really grateful for you to come in here and be a little bit vulnerable and courageous, is your story. And I think it distills down to the moral of the story is that, you got to do your homework. And at the end of the day, if there are red flags, whatever they may be, the certification, the staff, the whatever, that you need to follow your intuition, and that at the end of the day, your gut will send you in the right direction.
If you loved Plastic Surgery Uncensored, and I'm sure you did, I don't even want to say if, we would love to get your feedback. If you enjoyed and found our podcast helpful, tell us why. Give us a review and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or you can go directly to revolverpodcast.com. If you have a topic you would like us to talk about, then please reach out to us on Facebook, Roddy Raban, Instagram at Dr. Roddy Raban, or RoddyRaban.com. You are listening to Plastic Surgery Uncensored with Dr. Roddy Raban on Revolver Podcast.